Right, we'll get on to when I started school. I have vague recollections of starting school. I can certainly describe the school. It was an ex-church school, and so it had uh, doors with curved, pointed arches, this kind of shape, Gothic style, I suppose, and the windows were the same. There was three main classes in the school: the first, second, and fourth year junior infant school. Um, the third year class was held in the Congregational church rooms just over the road. There was also a house attached to the school for the headmistress. I can't remember the name of the reception class teacher, but the second one was a Mrs. Main, the third was a Mrs. Edwards, and the fourth was a Miss Campin. I have vague recollection of coming home from school the first or second day that I was there, and the teacher meeting Mum at the gate and telling her that I'd been crying during break time, and that I was upset, and perhaps she could, talk to me a bit about it. I can remember Mum being concerned, but what I cannot remember at all was crying during the break time at all. I wasn't scared at school. I don't remember there being any problem at all. It was one of those sort of odd situations. I think she must have mixed me up with someone else. I really don't think that I was upset at going to school at all. I started school just before I was 5 years old, my birthday being in the October. I started in the September, which was normal in those days. There was no any sort of preschool or play school or anything of that nature, certainly not in our village anyway. The heating was by coke stove. I remember that well. It was just a round stove at the edge of the room, surrounded by a guard, and at the side was a conical container which was full of coke. It had a handle on the side, and the teacher every so often had to open the top of the stove and tip some more coke in. A very nice thing in a way. It was safe, and there's a comfort about having a heater rather than just the room being warm. One of those things that, well, it's a little bit of interest is going on. A bit of reality, a sort of a fire is alive, isn't it? I do remember after probably only a few weeks at school, being asked to listen to other children read, because apparently my reading was in front of most of them. We had books. It was called Mac and Tosh. There were two dogs. I remember Mac was a Scotty dog. I don't really remember what Tosh was. My dad had taught me to read somewhat anyway, with flashcards. Only he'd written the words in capitals. I suppose that's how he was taught when he went to school. But at our school, we had them. It was written in small case, lowercase. I just was one of those children that learned to read relatively easily. I don't remember so much about the actual teaching in the later classes until I finally got into Miss Campin's class, when I do remember clearly writing a diary. We had to write a diary every Friday afternoon, and mine consisted mainly of the progress of Grandad's cancer, everything that happened to him, some of it quite gory, over the nearly 2 years that he survived after being operated on for bowel cancer. As it gradually spreads, and always coughed this up and so on, as my grandma would tell me, it was all written down in the book. One of the sort of treasured assets from my childhood, I suppose. I can remember a bit of the playground games. There was two playgrounds, one sort of at the left of the school and one at the right. The right-hand one was for the girls, and the left-hand one, if I remember right, was for the boys, and for the very first year the very first year boys, I think, had to go into the girls' playground because they might have been bullied by the other boys. I remember that we did definitely play British Bulldog. I don't remember it being a frightening, violent game, as some people try to portray it now. It's essentially that you have to get from one end of the playground to the other without being caught by the two lads playing Bulldog, with the Bulldogs in the middle. And as they catch somebody, then you're another one of those. So it gets harder until you're all caught in the end. It's basically, that's all it is. I thought it was perfectly enjoyable. I never thought of myself as a brave child in any sense, but this just seemed, it was just how life was. And it didn't seem to be a problem because nobody was nasty, I suppose. That's the long and short of it. I do also remember that we had outside chemical toilets. There was no internal plumbing when we first started there. I think while I was there, they did fit a flushing system and a sewer to them. I can't remember exactly when, but definitely it wasn't like that when I first went there. Again, as a child, you just accept it as normal. It smelt a bit. It's kind of a joke, really. It wasn't like a horror thing. When nobody told us to think so you don't think it, do you? I suppose the other thing I might say about it is that Mum used to take me every morning, and every afternoon I went home for dinner. I didn't stay school for dinner, although you could. I suppose we weren't all that far away from the school, but I suppose it was it was an outing for Mum. I mean, she was a stay-at-home mother, or a mother as it was in those days. There was only mothers and the odd one who went out to work in some sort of neglecting fashion, as it would be seen. Of course, the other side to that is that a man's wage was enough to live on, which perhaps it isn't these days, in fairness. Anyway, I do remember those walks down to school, and it suddenly occurred to me that it's strange, isn't it, how as a child you can hold your hand up like this, and it doesn't, because your mother's up there, and you don't, I suppose she holds your hand and holds it up. You would think it would ache, wouldn't you, after a while, holding your arm up like that, but it doesn't, does it, when you're a child? So on that note, I've got to mention one more thing, that I remember writing at school and being told that it would be better if I wrote with my right hand. And at one point at home, Auntie Brun and Mum and Dad were talking about me while I was playing sort of under the table. They seem to think you don't hear them when you're not sort of actually in the conversation, saying that sometimes I wrote with my right hand and sometimes I wrote with my left. And Auntie Brun saying you really need to teach him to write with his right hand, because if he becomes left-handed, he'll never be able to work a machine. You can't turn the dials. They're made for right-handed people, and he'll never earn a living if he grows up to be left-handed. In actual fact, I do write with my right hand, although I do quite a few things, the more simple things really, absolutely habitually with my left. I don't see why you have to be right-handed or left-handed, why you can't hold a knife and fork in this hand or the other way around, depending which you find easiest. In my case, I hold a spoon in my left hand and write with the right hand. I can't see why that should be a problem. But somehow they would seem to tell you at that time that you should do everything with your right hand. And then suddenly it became that, well, if you're left-handed, you should do everything with your left hand. That's indeed, my sister was left-handed. Whereas, why can you not do something with one and some with the other? So I'll say goodbye at that point, and I'll, of course, dutifully wave with my right hand. Bye.